The first step to prepare our financial statements, trading account. Now trading account, see, the format is just like the ledger. Debit side particulars amount, credit side particulars amount. All the expenses which are direct in nature have to be debited here. All the incomes which are direct in nature have to be credited here. The format is written as trading account of so and so, whosoever business it is, for the year ended 31st March, say 2015. Okay. Now, why do you need a separate trading account and a separate profit and loss account when you are actually debiting all your expenses and crediting all your incomes? This is to bifurcate what are the direct expenses and what are the indirect expenses. Say if I am running a factory, so in the factory till production whatever the expenses will be debited in the trading account, and now once the goods move out of the factory, there will be an office where some administrative expenses will be done or day-to-day indirect expenses will be incurred. That will be put in your profit and loss account. So let's start. First of all, we have to mention opening stock here. To opening stock, opening stock can be of your raw material or your finished goods. If it is mentioned separately, just jot it down, add them and take it out in the outer column, or write it directly into the outer column, whatever it is. And if a lump sum amount of opening stock is given, just write to opening stock and figure in the debit side. Now you remember that debit side here the expenses have to be written and credit side the incomes, so it will be written here by. Now once the opening stock is written, whatever purchased you have done throughout, two purchases, the total of purchases is here. Okay, whatever wages you have paid to the factory labor, to wages. One very important point, it looks confusing, but if you understand, it is not. If it is wages, you write here wages. If it is wages and salaries, still you write it in the trading account. But what if it is salaries and wages? Not wages and salaries, two salaries and wages. See, wages is a sort of direct expense, and all direct expenses are written in the trading and loss trading account. So if wages comes first, write it in the trading account. If the word salaries come first, salaries and wages, then put it in the profit and loss account. Okay. Then freight. Also written as freight inwards. Something expenses to get it into the factory, the material. All the factory expenses to be written here. Okay. Now what do I write here on the credit side? How do I generate revenue? Either from sales of goods or services. So by sales. Okay. And by closing stock has to be written at the credit side. Closing stock can be of raw material, of work in progress, or of the finished goods. So whatever the case is, if it is given only closing stock, just write it here. If it is given separately raw material, work in progress, finished goods, show these three, add them up and put it in the outer column. Now I generate revenue from sales. I have closing stock. I total them up. So first, generally do the credit side total in a trading account, then take the total of the debit items. The balance will be written as gross profit. Why gross profit? Because I have still to subtract the indirect expenses from it and have to add up the indirect incomes to come up to net profit. So here gross profit, remember the term gross profit. What do you do to this gross profit? I transfer it to the profit and loss account. So to gross profit transferred to profit and loss account. This is your balancing figure. You write it here and the total here. So quick recap of trading account. First, account of financial statements. Opening stock to be recorded on debit side. All the direct expenses, purchase, wages and salaries, freight inwards, any factory lighting, any cotton or waste material used in factories, all such expenses, any oil used in factory for machines, whatever it is has to be written in trading account because they all are direct expenses. Then how do I generate revenue? Revenue cannot be generated without sales of goods or services. So by sales have to be written here. Then by closing stock will be of raw material, work in progress or finished goods. Just add them up and write it here. Take the total of the credit side first because generally we have a profit from doing all these activities. So take the total of the credit side first because this is my revenue generated, and when I subtract the expense from revenue I should get a gross profit. The gross profit will ultimately be transferred to the profit and loss account. In profit and loss account I record all the indirect nature items. It can be indirect incomes or indirect expenses. So let's move on to profit and loss account. Don't mug up these items actually. Just keep on seeing this clip for 2 to 3 times. You will automatically start remembering it.